Jessica Marie Lunsford was born on October 6, 1995, in Gastonia, North Carolina, to Mark Lunsford and his wife Angela Bryant. From an early age, the girl displayed a bright, friendly character that won the love of her family and friends. After her parents' divorce, Jessica remained with her father, who played a key role in her life. Mark Lunsford was a caring and devoted father who gave his daughter a lot of attention. Jessica also maintained a close relationship with her paternal grandparents. They often helped Mark raise his granddaughter. When Jessica was around 9 years old, the family moved to Florida, to the small town of Homosassa in Citrus County. There, they settled in a quiet neighborhood known for its peaceful atmosphere and favorable environment for families with children. Jessica attended Homosassa Elementary School and was a good student. Jessica was known for her kindness, curiosity, and sociability. Her smile and sincerity quickly endeared her to those around her. According to her teacher's recollections, she was a diligent and friendly girl who easily got along with her classmates. Jessica was passionate about singing and dreamed of becoming a singer. At home, she often arranged impromptu concerts where she performed for her family. Her favorite singer was Britney Spears, and Jessica loved to copy her moves while singing along to popular hits. Besides music, the girl was interested in animals and dreamed of someday having a dog. The Lunsford family kept cats at home, which Jessica adored. Jessica was especially close to her father. Mark Lunsford, despite his struggles, strived to create comfortable conditions for his daughter. In the evenings, they often watched television together or walked around the neighborhood. The Lunsford family led a rather modest lifestyle, but Jessica always felt the care and support of her loved ones. Family friends recalled that Mark paid great attention to his daughter's safety. He taught her the basics of self-defense and always reminded her not to talk to strangers and not to leave the yard without warning. In early 2005, Jessica was preparing for a school event performance and eagerly awaited this occasion. The girl actively rehearsed the song she planned to perform and dreamed about how she would surprise her friends and teachers. That February evening, when Jessica disappeared forever, changed her family's life and shocked the public across the country. February 23, 2005, began for the Lunsford family as an ordinary weekday. In the morning, Jessica went to Homosassa Elementary School, where she had a busy day of classes and interactions with friends. After school, she returned home as usual, around 4 p.m. That evening, Jessica was at her grandfather Archie Lunsford's house, which was nearby. Her grandmother, Ruth Lunsford, was also in the house. Jessica's father, Mark, worked the evening shift and returned home late at night. According to relatives, Jessica spent the evening watching television and playing with her favorite toys. At around 9 p.m., she spoke on the phone with her mother, Angela Bryant, who lived in another state. The conversation was brief but warm. They discussed everyday matters, and Jessica talked about her school achievements. At approximately 10 p.m., Jessica went to bed. She was last seen in bed with a pink blanket and her favorite stuffed dolphin, named Dolphin. On the morning of February 24th, her grandmother went into Jessica's room to wake her for school. However, the bed was empty. At first, the family assumed that the girl might have gotten up earlier than usual and left the house for some reason. However, her shoes, jacket, and school backpack remained in their places. Realizing something was wrong, the family began searching for Jessica around the house and throughout the neighborhood. After several hours of unsuccessful searching, they contacted the police at 6 a.m. The Citrus County Police responded promptly to the call. Large-scale searches began that same day. Law enforcement officers combed the area around the Lunsford home, questioning neighbors and relatives. The search quickly gained momentum. Volunteers, FBI agents, and rescue workers joined the investigation. Flyers with Jessica's photograph and a call for residents to report any information about her whereabouts were distributed throughout the area. Police initially suspected that Jessica might have left home on her own. However, the absence of shoes, clothing, and her favorite dolphin toy led investigators to lean toward the abduction theory. Initial suspicions fell on family members, as is often the case in such situations. Investigators thoroughly questioned Mark Lunsford and his parents, but their alibis were confirmed. Surveillance cameras from stores and gas stations along Mark's route to work recorded him at the right times and the grandparents were at home all night. As the investigation developed, police began to suspect that the perpetrator might be someone from the local community, familiar with the house's layout and the family's habits. Jessica's disappearance shocked the local community. Homosassa residents actively joined the search. Volunteers combed the wooded areas and bodies of water, while business owners offered rewards for any useful information. Jessica's story quickly became national news. Stories about her disappearance were broadcast on all major U.S. television channels, and thousands of people on social media shared information in the hope of finding the girl. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Jessica was found during the first weeks. The disappearance remained a mystery, and anxiety in the community grew. The investigation into Jessica Lunsford's disappearance was in full swing. Despite police efforts, the first weeks of searching yielded no results, increasing anxiety among Homosassa residents and the girl's loved ones. From the first days, the Citrus County Police considered several theories: abduction, voluntary departure, and accident. However, the absence of signs of struggle in the house, closed doors and windows, and the fact that Jessica left without shoes indicated the forcible nature of her disappearance. From the very beginning, law enforcement focused on the family's immediate circle. Mark Lunsford, grandfather Archie, and grandmother Ruth were thoroughly interrogated. The police verified their alibis at the time of the girl's disappearance. All were confirmed. Since crimes of this nature are often committed by someone known to the victim, investigators began analyzing neighbors and family friends. During the questioning, it was discovered that a man named John Couey, previously convicted of sexual offenses, lived in the neighborhood near the Lunsfords. John Couey had already come to the attention of the police in the past. A Florida native, he had been repeatedly prosecuted for sexual crimes against minors. Additionally, he violated the terms of his registration as a sex offender by not reporting his new place of residence after moving to Homosassa. When police first came to the house where Couey lived, he wasn't there. Couey's live-in girlfriend, Dorothy Dixon, stated that she hadn't seen him for several days. This information alarmed investigators. Police examined the surroundings and questioned neighbors. It turned out that several witnesses had seen Couey in the area of the Lunsford home shortly before Jessica's disappearance. One neighbor remembered that Couey often walked through the streets in the evening, and another noticed a light in the window of the Lunsford home on the night of the girl's disappearance. Police issued a warrant for John Couey's arrest. It was later discovered that he had fled to Georgia, where he was hiding at his sister's place. On March 17, 2005, FBI agents, together with local police, detained Couey in Augusta, Georgia. During the arrest, Couey did not resist, but was visibly agitated. Police immediately began questioning him, hoping to obtain information about Jessica's whereabouts. Initially, John Couey denied any involvement in the girl's disappearance. He insisted that he knew nothing about her whereabouts. However, his testimonies soon began to contradict each other. Under the pressure of evidence and after hours of interrogation, Couey unexpectedly confessed to the crime. His account shocked not only the investigators, but the entire country. At this moment, the fate of Jessica Lunsford became tragically clear. After being detained in Georgia and undergoing a lengthy interrogation, John Couey finally confessed to the abduction and murder of Jessica Lunsford. His account was striking in its cruelty and cynicism. According to Couey's confession, on the night of February 24, 2005, he entered the Lunsford home through an unlocked front door. He claimed that he saw Jessica sleeping and decided to abduct her. Jessica didn't scream because Couey threatened to harm her if she made noise. Couey carried the girl to a trailer where he lived with his girlfriend, Dorothy Dixon. The shocking fact was that the trailer was located just a few dozen meters from the Lunsford home. According to Couey, he held Jessica in his trailer for 3 days. During this entire time, the girl was kept in a closet, tied up, and held in conditions of extreme isolation. When the search for Jessica intensified, Couey became afraid of being discovered. He decided to get rid of the child. According to him, on February 26th, he forced the girl to climb into a plastic garbage bag, claiming that he was going to hide her so that no one would find her. Inside the bag, the girl was conscious and tried to escape, but Couey covered the pit with earth, leaving her buried alive near his trailer. Later, the forensic examination confirmed the horrifying details. Jessica did not die immediately, but died of suffocation while inside the plastic bag. The marks on her fingers showed evidence of attempts to escape. After his confession, Couey showed the police where the girl was buried. On March 19, 2005, Jessica Lunsford's body was found in a shallow grave just a few meters from Couey's trailer. The girl was wrapped in 2 plastic bags, and beside her was her favorite stuffed dolphin, which she never parted with. This heartbreaking discovery shocked not only the residents of Homosassa, but the entire country. DNA traces found on Jessica's body unequivocally pointed to John Couey's involvement. Hair and fingerprints found in the trailer also confirmed that the girl had been there. A key piece of evidence was a pink blanket belonging to Jessica that was found in Couey's trailer. It contained both her DNA and traces of Couey's biological material, which definitively linked him to the crime. Couey's confession and irrefutable evidence made him the main and only accused in this case. The arrest of John Couey and the shocking details of Jessica Lunsford's murder caused widespread public outcry. The public demanded fair punishment, and the media closely followed the developments. The prosecution brought several serious charges against John Couey: kidnapping of a minor, violent acts against a child, first-degree murder. The Citrus County Prosecutor's Office insisted on the death penalty. Defense attorneys tried to build a defense based on Couey's mental state and insisted that the crime was not premeditated. During trial preparations, it was discovered that Couey was not officially registered as a sex offender in Citrus County because he had not notified authorities of his change of residence. This fact caused public outrage and raised questions about the deficiencies in the monitoring system for such offenders. The trial began in April 2007 and lasted several weeks. During the process, testimonies from dozens of witnesses were heard, including police officers, forensic experts, and members of the Lunsford family. The prosecution presented compelling evidence: Couey's DNA found on Jessica's body and her blanket, Couey's confession, recorded on video testimonies from witnesses who saw Couey in the area of the Lunsford home on the night of the crime. One of the most emotional moments of the trial came when Jessica's father, Mark Lunsford, testified before the court. His account of his daughter and her dreams for the future touched everyone present. Couey, on the contrary, demonstrated calmness and coldness. He refused to testify in court and showed no remorse. On March 7, 2007, the jury found John Couey guilty on all counts. On March 24, 2007, the judge handed down the sentence: death penalty for first-degree murder and life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole for kidnapping and violent acts. When pronouncing the sentence, the judge called Couey's actions inhuman and cruel, emphasizing that the criminal showed exceptional cruelty toward a defenseless child. After the sentencing, Couey filed several appeals, but all were rejected. He remained on death row in Florida. The case of Jessica Lunsford received widespread response in society and influenced the tightening of laws concerning sexual crimes against children. The case of Jessica Lunsford became one of the most resonant crimes against children in the United States. The shocked society demanded stricter legislation to prevent similar tragedies in the future. After the crime was solved, Mark Lunsford actively began advocating for the reform of laws regulating the control of sexual offenders. His efforts quickly found support among politicians, public figures, and ordinary citizens. Soon, the so-called Jessica's Law was passed. This legislative act provided for a minimum punishment of 25 years imprisonment for persons found guilty of violent sexual acts against children under 12 years of age, lifetime supervision using electronic monitoring devices, such as GPS bracelets, for criminals released after serving their sentences. Jessica's Law was first adopted in Florida and subsequently enacted in other U.S. states. It became an important step in the fight against crimes against minors and improving the monitoring system for convicted sex offenders. Jessica Lunsford's story sparked active discussion in American society. Parents across the country became more attentive to their children's safety. Educational programs emerged, teaching children the basics of self-defense and rules for interacting with strangers. Local communities also began demanding increased control over sex offenders, including the creation of public registries with their names and addresses. Jessica's father, Mark Lunsford, dedicated his life to advocating for child protection. He actively collaborated with law enforcement agencies and charitable foundations, participating in campaigns to prevent violence against minors. Mark repeatedly appeared on television, telling his daughter's story and calling for vigilance regarding threats that children face. In memory of Jessica, a memorial was established in Homosassa, depicting a smiling girl hugging her favorite stuffed dolphin. This monument became a symbol not only of loss, but also of society's commitment to protecting its most vulnerable members. John Couey remained on death row in Florida until his death. On September 30th, 2009, he died of natural causes, esophageal cancer. His passing did not evoke sympathy from the public. Many perceived it as a kind of justice for his deeds. Jessica Lunsford's story remains an important reminder of the need to protect children. Jessica's law became one of the most significant legislative reforms in U.S. criminal law. The memory of Jessica lives on in the hearts of her relatives and friends. Her father continues to speak of her as a kind, cheerful girl whose story, despite its tragic end, helped make the world a little safer. Many years have passed since the tragic death of Jessica Lunsford, but her name continues to resonate in the context of the fight for children's safety and the tightening of laws on sexual crimes. The Lunsford family and public organizations have worked actively to ensure that Jessica's story is not forgotten and that her death brought positive changes to society. After his daughter's death, Mark Lunsford dedicated his life to human rights advocacy. In 2005, he founded the Jessica Marie Lunsford Foundation, an organization engaged in protecting children from sexual violence and disseminating information about the safety of minors. The foundation conducted educational programs in schools, organized meetings with parents, and taught them methods to protect children from potential threats. Mark Lunsford personally visited educational institutions, talking about his daughter and calling on adults to be vigilant and responsible. The foundation also actively supported campaigns to implement electronic monitoring systems for convicted criminals. GPS surveillance systems, which became mandatory for criminals released under Jessica's law, became an important step in improving children's safety. Jessica Lunsford's story was widely covered in American media. For several years, leading television channels and print publications reported on the tragedy, which helped draw society's attention to the problems of controlling sexual offenders. Television programs, such as America's Most Wanted, repeatedly produced special episodes dedicated to Jessica's memory. These broadcasts detailed the course of the investigation, errors in the monitoring system for criminals, and the need for legislative reforms. Additionally, several documentary films were made based on the events related to Jessica's case, and numerous thematic programs were created. This contributed to raising society's awareness about the problem of violence against children. Every year in Homosassa, events are held in memory of Jessica Lunsford. Relatives, friends, and residents of Citrus County gather at these meetings to honor the girl's memory and remind everyone of the need to protect children. At one such event, Mark Lunsford said, "I don't want people to remember only how tragically her life was cut short. Jessica was fun-loving, kind, and dreamed of many things. She loved to sing, dreamed of becoming a singer, and brought joy to those around her. I hope that through her memory, we will be able to save other children." After the adoption of Jessica's law, many countries began discussing similar measures. In Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia, legislative initiatives were proposed to tighten penalties for sexual offenders and create systems to monitor their movements. In several countries, mandatory monitoring was introduced for criminals convicted of sexual crimes against children. These measures were a direct consequence of the public resonance caused by the Jessica Lunsford case. Jessica Lunsford's story is a tragic but important page in the history of the fight for children's rights. Her death was not in vain. Through her example, society recognized the need for active protection of minors and stricter control measures over criminals. The memory of Jessica continues to live in the hearts of her loved ones and in the laws that help prevent new tragedies.